Globalization has made the financial elite who donate to politicians very, very wealthy. I used to be one of them. Hate to say it, but I used to be one. But it's left millions of our workers with nothing but poverty and heartache.
A portion of that major address Donald Trump delivered yesterday afternoon in Pennsylvania talking about trade, and you heard him right there emphasizing the dangers of globalization. Our next guest says Trump has some good ideas and that for the most part, he should be pretty good to business. Joining us now via Skype from San Francisco, branding advisor to CEOs and Newsmax insider Marc Rudov. Marc, also the author of the book, Be Unique or Be Ignored, the CEO's Guide to Branding, and you can find Marc at marcrudov.com. So, Marc, we'll give you credit. We talked early in this campaign when there were a lot of skeptics about Donald Trump, and you said, no, he's got the brand, he's got the slogan, Make America Great Again. And in your latest evaluation, you wrote an article for our parent website, Newsmax.com, that says, unlike our current president and Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump loves business and wants to restore America's economic greatness. It's that kind of attitude, you write, that means Trump is good for business. But you do have some concerns. It's not completely rah-rah Trump when it comes to business. So what are your concerns about Mr. Trump in the Oval Office?
My concern is that he has a protectionist side. And when he talks about tariffs and punishing companies, then he's not talking like a conservative. He's not talking like a businessman. He's not talking under the guise of free enterprise. And all of those things that I just mentioned are bad for business. So when Trump talks about punishing Carrier or Ford or Nabisco, that's not good for business, and there should never be a need to punish businesses. Look, I live in California, and for many years running now, California is deemed the worst state in the United States for business. Why? Two reasons: taxes, regulations. So when you want to fix a problem, you have to address the problem. What are the problems? Taxes and regulations. So if Trump doesn't want Carrier and Ford and Nabisco to leave the United States, he should work on taxes and regulations. It's that simple. And I said this in the article, if he treats the United States as a shopping mall and every company as a tenant in the shopping mall, then make it good for business. Entice the businesses. Don't punish them for leaving. So it's very simple. Companies go where it's easy to do business. Many businesses are leaving California and going to Texas.
Yeah, I love that analogy, Marc, about the shopping mall. And I would agree with you about the tax code, but I have to tell you, in terms of an emotional connection on the stump, when he talks about consequences for those heading out, it certainly plays to the frustration. And perhaps, and this is maybe where we differ a bit, selected tariffs may not be entirely wrong, at least if they're modeled conversely to tax advantages for keeping business in the United States. Tell you what, Marc, let's go to the phones now at 1-877-Newsmax. We go to the Show Me State of Missouri, specifically to the town that is the home of the University of Missouri, Columbia. And Eric is on the phone. Eric, welcome to Newsmax Prime.
Thank you.
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to say that to me, I think that it really needs to be a little bit. We need the regulation, not like what the Democrats want, but I think that it's time to demand that that at the very least, people that the government, the businesses that are working in that are making money in this country needs to pay those taxes.
Well, sure, everybody who makes money should pay taxes, but Eric, when we're talking about regulation, and this is something we touched on with Mike Lee last night. Everybody agrees to a modicum of regulation, but what we've allowed happen, and I'd be interested in your take on this, Marc Rudov. What has happened, as Mike Lee was telling us last night, as I talked about during my days in Congress, laws are set up open-ended for executive branch agencies to promulgate regulation. And certainly, Marc Rudov, you and Donald Trump see more eye to eye, I would think, on deregulation, not getting rid of every jot and tittle, but reducing regulation and having rational regulations when it comes to business. Your take, Mark.
I'm guessing that Eric does not run a business. And when you run a business or you want to run a business, the last thing you want to hear is the word regulation. Now, in the United States, more companies die than are being born. That is not good. So when somebody says, I think we need regulation, I can tell right away he doesn't run a business. If we want more businesses to be formed in the United States, we have to make it easy for businesses to form. Why do you think so many businesses are leaving California and going to Texas? Because they have no state income tax and they have lower regulations. Businesses employ people. So if you want businesses to flourish and if you want people to start businesses and to succeed in businesses, you have to make it easy for them. And if you do make it easy for them, they wouldn't even think of leaving. So Carrier, Ford, and Nabisco would never leave the United States if the cost of doing business here were commensurate with other competitive places in the world. It's really that simple. So I don't want to hear that we need more regulation. We don't. We have an overreaching IRS, an EPA, and Health and Human Services with Obamacare. It's crippling businesses, and many people don't even want to start them now.
Yep. Hey, let's get back to the phones. From Paisley, Florida, Fred is on the line. Fred, welcome to Newsmax Prime.
Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I'm old and I speak a little slow, so bear with me.
All right.
But I'm an industrial engineer. I've never dreamed that we would design all the things that we did that we could not make. And when you engineer something, you engineer into it the people that work it. And then you level out the salaries to pay them a livable wage, even as the janitor, for what he creates. And another thing, on immigration, I worked in the missile industry, and green card people we got from Finland and Sweden that worked for us to help out. And those people went back to their homes. They would contribute a lot.
Yeah, and it's the whole notion, Fred.
English, and they had
right.
the technology.
It goes back to the notion, I hate to truncate this, but only a couple of minutes left. And Fred, what you are pointing out in terms of industrial engineering, some truths that I think we both embrace. You have to be selective about who comes into the country. You have to have an immigration policy. But also, Mark, there is something that others, Fred didn't exactly say it this way, but some speak of a social contract and a livable wage. We're not talking a minimum wage here, but we're talking a livable wage. Do you believe Mr. Trump will restore that? About 30 seconds.
I don't even believe in that. I think that when businesses are competitive, then they can pay their workers and their employees competitive rates. And when you make it hard to do business, then they lay off people. So this livable wage notion, this is just social justice. Well, again, when you create a competitive environment, then companies are competing for employees, then they have to pay more for them. The social engineering doesn't work, and we need to stop talking about it. So again, free enterprise and capitalism do work if you allow them to.
The only caveat I would offer to you, Mark, is this, and I hear it from the open borders crowd at the Wall Street Journal, who says bringing in all the illegals is just the free market at work. That is not, respectfully, that is a market distortion. I think you and I see eye to eye on that. That's the only amendment I would offer. One thing I want to say to you tonight, Mark, is we thank you for your time and your take as you advise CEOs, as you serve as a Newsmax insider. And again, the name of Mark's book is Be Unique or Be Ignored, the CEO's Guide to Branding. And I hope you'll brand this as a good time. And join us again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern and again at 8 o'clock Pacific as we forward.